welcome to the January 11, 2021 City Council meeting. Thank you all for joining us in this remote meeting format we're using in response to Governor Brown's Stay Home, Save Lives order. This format enables the City Council to meet, hear from the public, and take care of business while keeping its members, staff, and the public safe. We do have a full agenda tonight, and I have a couple of housekeeping announcements and instructions that I want to take care of initially. First off, anyone wishing to access the meeting can do so by watching the live stream available on our website, broadcast on Comcast Channel 21, or by following the access instructions listed for this meeting on the public webcast and meeting materials web page. Tonight's agenda includes a public forum. If you wish to participate during the public forum and haven't already done so, please raise your virtual hand now to join the speakers queue in one of two ways. For those viewing the meeting on a computer, laptop, or other device, click once on the blue hand icon. For those listening to the meeting on a phone, press *9. And I think that blue hand has become a yellow hand. We will continue accepting raised hands until 7:35 p.m. The meeting moderator will unraise or disallow any requests to speak that are made after that deadline. You will have 2.5 minutes to speak. As a reminder, we are now allowing speakers the option of turning on your video when you are called on to provide testimony. As each speaker's turn is announced, the meeting moderator will temporarily promote you to panelist status, and you can unmute and turn on your video if you wish. Please be aware that there may be a slightly longer transition period between speakers as the moderator works behind the scenes to make all of this happen. Also, I encourage everyone to use this new increased access in a responsible way. Our intent is simply to be able to see each other's faces as testimony is given. Any misuse of the platform or inappropriate sharing will result in immediate termination of the speaking privilege. And finally, thank you all for your flexibility and patience. This virtual format is no longer new to all of us. It's become the way we have done business now for a long time. And thank you all for just bearing with us and making it work for everybody. And as always, feel free to contact any one of us individually or together via email or voicemail if there is testimony you were not able to provide or wish to get to us in a different manner. And now our first order of business is a peaceful transfer of power from one president to the next.
I didn't hear about that peaceful part. I move to elect Jennifer Yeh as president of the City Council for 2021.
Second.
Any conversation, discussion? All in favor, please raise your hands. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Thank you. Congratulations.
Take it away, Jennifer.
You're on.
Oh, that's right. I move to elect Claire Surratt as vice president of the City Council for 2021.
I will second that.
Oh.
I
heard an opening there. Sorry, I took it.
All right. All in favor, please raise your hands. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And that passes. Congratulations. And thank you for stepping up for this new leadership. I have been prompted that I did not cue in all of the people who have signed up to speak, that we have 46 people signed up, and a reminder that the council has set a limit of 90 minutes for testimony. So be aware of that as we work our way through that. At 90 minutes, we will close off the testimony. And so as we keep adding people, some of those later people to step up may miss their chance tonight, but you can submit testimony to us. All right, with that explanation, our next order of business is a ceremonial matter, is a celebratory moment. And so I'm gonna turn this over to Sarah Mederi, city manager, who can talk about the award of the City of Eugene's re-accreditation by the American Public Works Association. So, manager?
Thank you, Mayor. I'm mostly going to let Matt and Dan do their spiel about the accreditation, but it is really nice to start the year with a recognition of staff and particular Public Works for their ongoing professionalism. So Matt, take it away. I'm proud of you and the team.
Thanks, Sarah. I'm Matt Rodriguez, your Acting Public Works Director, and I'm excited to share with you that we recently received our 4th reaccreditation through the American Public Works Association, also known as APWA. Tonight, I'm just going to briefly share some context and history of the accreditation. We're going to show you a short video, and then we're going to give some time to Dan Hartman, who's our APWA Region 9 Director, to talk about accreditation. So as you may know, we were first accredited in 2004. We were the first agency in Oregon to be accredited and one of the first 50 in the United States. The purpose of accreditation is to provide a means of formally verifying and recognizing public works agencies for compliance with industry best practices. We can thank Kirk Corey, our late director, really for having the vision to pursue this and achieve accreditation, and seeing the value in creating a system of practices and procedures that ensure consistency and quality in the services that we provide our community each day. Achieving reaccreditation, which we do every 4 years, is an opportunity for us to revisit these practices and procedures and to work continually to improve the way we provide our services. Using the process to meaningfully advance the great work we do requires a significant investment in time from our staff, with more than 100 people participating, predominantly from Public Works, but also including support from our Central Services Finance team. I'm especially grateful to the chapter leads in our city APWA accreditation team, which included Carla Spangler, Sky Satch, Brian Richardson, Vanessa Jordan, and Lacey Risdall. They really guided us through this process and were instrumental in achieving this honor. And what's especially exciting this year is that we achieved a perfect score in the accreditation audit. It's the first time for us, and it's actually a rarity in the accreditation process. And the fact that we performed this work and achieved reaccreditation within a most challenging year is truly a testament to the dedication, talent, and passion of the people that make up this team. So now we're going to show you just a very brief video that highlights some of the services and people at Public Works. Quick note that those photos were all taken before the pandemic. That's why you didn't see any masks there. So now I'd like to introduce Dan Hartman, who's our APWA Region 9 Director.
Okay, thank you. It's my pleasure and honor to be here tonight. And I guess I have to say, start this at the end, but instead I'll put it up now. I was on another Zoom call about 45 minutes ago with the city of Salem, who just received their first accreditation, which is a real testament to Oregon that your quest for professionalism is so widespread that I have to do 2 of these in one night. But it is my absolute pleasure to be here. first of all, I want to congratulate your city council for their volunteerism. It's not hard. I've been in this, or it is hard. I've been in this business for 35 plus years, and I know you are pressured for all kinds of things, and it is difficult. You have to make difficult decisions. But the fact that through all this, you have a Public Works Association that meets the highest standard within North America, because accreditation is both United States and Canada. We actually have an outlier in Australia, except for they drive on the wrong side of the road. One of the things, and this year really points this out, is the importance of public works as a first responder. And you don't think about the water coming on in the morning, the toilet flushing. You don't think about in a flood, who kept you from going underwater. But that's all public works. And in most of these situations, public works really is the first responder. If you have a big issue and suddenly roads are blocked, it's public works that comes and clears them, so that first responders, police, fire, ambulance can get there. And they really are the unsung heroes. But also after they've come and helped for the immediate response, are the ones that stay and clean things up and put things back together. And the fact that your Public Works Department is totally committed to doing that at the highest level possible is very commendable. And it is one of the things that I really admire about, there's only 161 of these in the country. And I really admire the departments that have gone through this, and especially departments, your fourth reaccreditation. So they are totally committed to continual excellence and improvement. And I really admire that. So on behalf of the 30,000 members of the American Public Works Association, our board of directors, I really want to commend and thank Eugene for their leadership and their commitment to excellence. And I know through time, Eugene has helped the 3 other communities that have gone through accreditation. And it is that kind of commitment and that willing to share that makes us all better. So congratulations very much. We appreciate your excellence, and keep it up. It's 4, go for 8. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Hartman, for joining us and for joining us in this ceremonial and celebratory moment. We are very proud of our Public Works Department and the work that they do and the ways in which they make our city both beautiful and efficient. And I think we have benefited as a community both from excellent leadership in that department and just excellent team pulling together. And here we are, as you mentioned, it's been a very rough year in 2020, and this is a department that just kept on, pursued excellence, did extraordinary work, and not only maintained but built for the future. So we are proud of them. We are glad that you recognize their strengths, and very much appreciate that you've come here tonight to join us and to congratulate our Public Works Department. So thank you very, very much. And now I believe we're ready for our next item of business, which is committee reports and items of interest. And I know that Councilor Syret has something, and I see Councilor Semple and Councilor Ye. So take it away, Councilor Syret.
Thank you, Mayor. I have a few things I want to speak to, so I will need a second round. To begin with, on Wednesday, January 6th, on the same day, 4 members of this council, including me and the mayor, were sworn in for our terms of public service. Our nation's capital was subjected to a horrifying scene of incitement to riot and attempt at violent insurrection based on a lie. The lie is that our incoming president and vice president were not legitimately elected. Our democracy, which is the life's blood of our nation's republic, works because each of us has agreed to be governed by one another through representational democracy. We don't rule over one another, but instead have made a pact to establish and follow laws which provide a framework for a civil, functional society that is meant to allow freedom of expression and the freedom to pursue our individual destinies. Our Constitution provides the foundation for those laws. A democracy doesn't work out of fear of violence or coercion. It is not maintained either by a secret police or an armed militia unmoored from any legitimate democratic authority. The use of violence to subvert our legitimate laws and institutions is fascism, which is the very antithesis of democracy. Those people who engaged in incitement and violence in our nation's capital on Wednesday are not patriots. They do not support our core democratic institutions, but rather seek to dismantle them in favor of pledging allegiance to a charismatic leader. Again, this is fascism, not democracy. Those of us who believe in our republic and the democratic institutions that allow it to function must give voice to the truth. Our incoming president and vice president were duly elected in a free and fair, legitimate election. We must repeat this truth as often as those who seek to end our republic repeat their lies. So again, I say, Joseph R. Biden and Kamala Harris have been duly elected the next president and vice president of the United States of America. We shall not bow before fascists and thugs. We shall stand up and speak the truth. And I shall continue to honor both the oath I made when I became a naturalized citizen of the United States of America and when I took my oath of office to serve on this council. I swore to defend this country from all enemies, foreign and domestic, and to defend the Constitution of the United States of America. I ask all good and righteous residents of these United States to join me in this crucial effort so that our republic may survive and continue to work towards a more perfect union. Thank you.
Thank you for those words. Councilor Semple and then Councilor Ye.
Councilor Syret, thank you. Thank you so much for putting that into words. I agree all the way, and I have tears. Thank you. I'm going to switch. Public Works, go team. I'm so proud of you. I spent almost 20 years doing the newspaper design and layout for county public works. So I feel an affinity for public works, but also an understanding. And even though I'm really grateful for those ambulance rides, I believe that public works, sorry everybody else, is our most important department. We wouldn't be doing anything without those toilets flushing. So I'm really grateful for a lot of innovation and dedication to our city. Thank you. And in an effort to be transparent, I wrote a letter in response to an admin order that's coming up. And I don't regret that, but I was probably a little more translucent than transparent because I didn't know the details. And I responded without finding them out. I had a long conversation and learned a lot today. But I really urge you, because I feel that may be a lot of our forum attendees to listen to our manager, who is going to add some clarity. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Councillor Ye and then Councillor Zelenka.
Yeah, first, thank you also, Councillor Surratt. That was very well said, and I appreciate how you were able to articulate that much better than I could. So thank you so much. Second, I am also a fan of flushing toilets. And on that note, the Metropolitan Wastewater Management Commission has been invited by the National Association of Clean Water Agencies to have a seat on their newly created Legislative Affairs Committee. And so we will be having a seat at that table, which is new and exciting. And the group is looking forward to having that opportunity to give feedback on the national level. I also wanted to let folks know about an opportunity I just found out about today. It's on January 27th from 6 to 8 by the Junior League of Eugene. And it's called Abolish Human Trafficking Training. And I've actually been to one of their events on this pre-COVID, and it's very informative and very eye-opening. So if you're looking for understanding this issue, understanding warning signs of people around you who might be involved in human trafficking, they're going to be working with a national group to do this webinar. Sorry. And it is free, and I suggest you just go to their website and sign up for it. That is all. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Zelenka and Councillor Clark.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. Thank you for the words, Claire. I too was disgusted by the violence and insurrection in Washington, D.C. Clear to me that Trump incited these domestic terrorists to violence, and he humiliated America, and he humiliated me as an American, all based on a lie that not Joe Biden, won the presidency without any facts, without any proof. In fact, it was something like 60 judges, some of which were appointed by Trump himself, turned down these as ridiculous claims. So on January 20th, Joe Biden and Kamala Harris will be sworn in and become president and vice president. And in the end, our democracy survived this test, which should have never happened. But it isn't over. Just today, the FBI sent out warnings that there was going to be violent demonstrations at all 50 of the state capitals. So we need to be constantly vigilant about our democracy. And when Benjamin Franklin was asked if we had a king or a republic, he said, "A republic if we can keep it." And we need to be vigilant about keeping that. So I hope that we can do that. Changing topics for a second, something I mentioned earlier, I want the council, I think it's incumbent upon the council to start thinking about what we're going to do when we get in a couple of months, we're going to get the ad hoc committee on police policies recommendation. And I think it behooves us to treat that important recommendation with the respect that it deserves and get lots of perspective and input and review and comments on their recommendations. Not only the police commission and the CRB, but because they're directly impacted, but others as well. So I think it behooves us to start that process and thinking about how we're going to process that piece of work that they're diligently working on. Thanks, Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Clark and then Councillor Keating.
Thank you, Mayor. I want to just say that I agree entirely with the last two things that Councillor Zelenka said. I hope, too, that we'll get lots of input on their recommendations and see a full perspective of opinions on that work. And it's very important. I'd also echo his point that we're a republic and not a democracy. And to me, the difference isn't just semantic, it's important. One of the things I really love about serving on this council is that when I started 14 years ago, councilors threw things at one another. Seriously, literally, we had disagreements at the table that, incited some real disagreement and some real ugliness. And while I have an opportunity to disagree with my colleagues from time to time, and so do others. And while previous councils in the last few years have had more who will side with me, and now we've lost Betty. I'm very sad about that, but I welcome Matt. One of the things I've always really honored and appreciated about this service is our ability to be civil with one another. And I can't think of a more important time for us to be leaders and model that work. This summer, we had a lot of violence in our community, and it made me sick. And Wednesday made me sick. It made me sick to my stomach. But I don't know whether that was the end or the beginning. And so I urge all of us to do our very best to try and treat people with whom you have violent disagreements, because I have them from time to time. I know my colleagues do. I really urge us to treat people with whom we strongly disagree with grace and with kindness. We don't have to beat them up just because we disagree with them. And I think that we can be real leaders in that. We've done it for a long while now. And I would really urge, this community and our council leads in so many important ways in our country. I think we have an opportunity to show people how to disagree in a civil manner without insulting one another, because you think of things differently. So I'm going to work real hard at that, and I hope my colleagues will too. Thank you.
Thank you for those words. Councillor Keating.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Councillor Clark, for the welcome and the words. And Councillor Syrett, your words are so powerful, and I thank you and commend you, and I stand with you and the mayor, who put out a statement just a few days ago condemning hate and racism and white supremacy throughout our community and our country. And I thank you, Mayor, for signing on to a Western States Coalition to Defend Democracy. It was the first action I took after our swearing in on a most memorable date, and one that will live in infamy. And I ask colleagues to seek out that Western States Coalition statement and sign on and stand with Mayor Vinis to defend democracy. These actions are deplorable and fundamentally un-American. And I thank you, Mayor, for your words. And I thank you, Councillor Syrett, for your words tonight, kicking off our meeting. I stand with you, dedicated to create a safe community here in Eugene that is that allows for a fundamental dismantling of our systemic racism, while tackling oppression in all forms and vehemently denouncing violence throughout our community. Changing topics, I want to invite anyone within earshot of who are interested in advocating for mental health services to apply for an opening with our county partners, who have 2 vacancies on the Mental Health Advisory Local Alcohol and Drug Planning Committee. That Mental Health Advisory Alcohol and Drug Planning Committee information can be found on our county partners page, lanecounty.org. And I hope 2 competent, capable, enthused persons stand up and take action. Council, I look forward to 4, hopefully many more years of service with you. It is most surreal to be sitting here with you rather than just observing in the gallery. And I look forward to being a helpful partner and a clear-headed advocate for our shared community values. Thank you for welcoming me tonight.
Thank you. Yes, welcome to you, Councillor Keating, and welcome to Councillor Groves. And Councillor Surratt needed a second round, so I'll turn it over to you, Councillor Surratt.
Thank you. Thanks for indulging me in a second round, Mayor. I wanted to just make a few comments closer to home. So regarding our Vision Zero efforts, we had a tragedy on our streets on New Year's Day when a pedestrian was hit and killed by a vehicle on River Road. There didn't appear to be any impairment with the driver involved. And this is a terrible reminder that we need to be putting more emphasis on our Vision Zero goals, which is to have no death or serious crashes on our streets. So this means looking at engineering, particularly on that stretch of road, promoting safe driving and walking in ways that we can in terms of community education, and using our enforcement powers with our traffic enforcement to keep working towards that goal of Vision Zero deaths or life-changing crashes on our streets. And then on the state of the city, I wanted to thank staff for putting together and pulling off such a great program. It was just wonderful. I really enjoyed it and really appreciate the work that went into it. I wanted to highlight the community awards that the mayor gave out at that ceremony. They were given to 3 organizations: Carry It Forward, whose employees work with people who employ people who are struggling with homelessness in projects that help reduce blight in our downtown core; the NAACP, which has been a stalwart partner with the city, working to address racial inequities and support for the advancement of human rights in our city; and the Eugene Chamber of Commerce, for how they've stepped up during COVID to support local businesses in our community in partnership with the city. All 3 of these organizations couldn't be faulted if they were skeptical about partnering with the city, given the inherent challenges of working with government bureaucracy and the potential for political tensions. But they have put aside any reservations, and our city is better for it because of their willingness to take a chance and work for us. And I just wanted to call that out again and note it. And lastly, I want to welcome our 2 new city councilors. I'm very much looking forward to working with you in this coming 4 years. And then just on a personal note, I might have to stand during part of the public forum, and I just want to say that's not any kind of symbolic act. I've just been sitting in this chair since 9 a.m. And so I might take the privilege of standing up for a little bit of public comment. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much for all of those comments. And now I'm going to turn it over to the city manager because I know she has a few things that she wants to share with us.
Sure. Thank you, Mayor. I was just thinking, I don't know if I can stand up anymore. I feel like I've been sitting since March. And before I say my comments, I just want to let you know how much I appreciate and value your leadership. And as you, if each talked about your entry comments and talking about last week's events and state of the city and what happened at the Capitol, it's just, you're an incredible group of people to work with. And I'm really grateful for that. So a couple of things that have been happening, and I'll just start with the most sort of top of mind and important is related to the solid waste rule changes that you have been getting comments on. So this, I'll just remind you that we do rule kind of updates periodically, and we always put it out for public comment and we respond to those. We listen and we respond, and we've done that several times. Some recent examples would be the park rules. You might remember we had put in some restrictions around alcohol and drone flying, and we heard a lot, and we pulled them out because we learned things that we didn't know going into it. Similarly, we've done this with the solid waste before. And so right now we have a rule amendment out that is being misunderstood, I think, and communicated broadly an intent that was never intended to be in there. So there's a couple of things that are in there that are being I think misunderstood. One was that we were requiring people to put all of their garbage in plastic bags. And I know this is a lot of detail to do in your committee reports and items of interest, but I just feel like I need to clarify a little bit. You did get an email about this earlier today, but you may not have been able to see it. There isn't any sort of requirement for a plastic bag. There is a requirement to put in some type of bag. And that's a proposal based on just some experiences we're having, especially in the commercial world, around lots of loose garbage and what that what that sort of means in terms of, you know, what happens when the haulers are dumping it, how it falls out, what's happening with other things like rats and neighborhoods. So it was really, it's a proposal, and we're hearing a lot of people not liking that. In particular, we're hearing that the rule is intended to really sort of persecute and hold homeless people accountable for getting into the garbage, which has never been intended to do. It's fully never been intended to do that. And hearing that and hearing how fast that is spread and that people think that's what's going on is concerning to me, and just not the type of city that we would run. So I will say that we have had some issues with some unlicensed waste management companies that are getting into containers, the commercial containers, and doing what they can to compress and densify the garbage. And most recently, I think what we've been experiencing and what we're hearing a lot about from haulers and customers, I think, is that people are slicing open, dumping the garbage, and then it's just a big pile of garbage. So that's really what we're trying to address. These are rules that are addressed across the state. We're hearing loud and clear that people think we're addressing something else. So we will take all that feedback in. I think the comments ended today, but we have staff that are listening to this meeting tonight, and we'll continue to listen and figure out how we can adapt those so we can make it really clear what it is we're trying to achieve and what we're not trying to do. So if you're here to testify about that, just know I'll be listening tonight too. I usually turn my camera off during the forum, but that is absolutely not something that we would be doing under this admin rule. So I apologize for that being misunderstood. The other couple of things I wanted to say is you also got an email today that we are doing a survey out in the community about people's impacts from COVID. And so you may hear from some of your constituents about that. And the last piece is sort of a good news piece that just remind the public and to remind all of you that we are now sort of successfully moved into the Mary Spildey Center. So the LCC downtown Mary Spildey Center, as Councilor Keating reminded me, is not just the LCC downtown campus, it is the Mary Spildey Center. So that's pretty exciting. And it's not super exciting for the public right now because the building's locked down and we're meeting virtually. But I think as we come back into being together, I think people will find that it'll be a really nice space where we can have some social distance and start to get back together again. So those are my three. I know you have a long night ahead, so I'll stop.
Thank you so much for those clarifications. And yes, I think we'll just charge ahead because we have a big lineup of people wanting to testify. So we need to look at the consent calendar. And Councilor Zelenka, did you want to pull something from that consent calendar?
Yeah, I wanted to pull real briefly items C, D, and E and have them addressed separately.
Okay, great. So can I have a motion to approve the first two pieces of the consent calendar?
So I move to approve items A and B on consent calendar 1.
Second.
All in favor, please raise your hands. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Thank you. And now the item C, D, and E, Councilor Zelenka, you want to speak to that?
Yeah, if staff could talk about those a little bit. I just wanted to point those out because we constantly are talking about affordable housing and more specifically permanent supportive housing that is for low-income folks. And this is exactly what these items are about in the new home funds. I think there's 80 new units, and then the two LRPD, low income rental housing property tax exemptions. Both of those are continuing old projects. So that's 50 more units with multiple bedrooms in each that are continuing on. So maybe if staff could just do a couple of minutes and talk about those two LRPDs and the projects that we're moving forward with that are new.
Sure. Good evening. Thank you. I'm Ellen May Galloway from Community Development. Thanks so much for highlighting the federal home program request for proposals process to allocate development subsidies for affordable housing. Every year, it's so difficult for the evaluation committee to score the proposals since all the developments are needed for the community. But this year we had enough home funds available to assist 2 proposals. And so I'll just provide a brief overview of the 2 new construction proposals that received the highest scores and are recommended for funding. The first proposal is 1100 Charnelton by Homes for Good Housing Agency in downtown Eugene. The development is 45 units of permanent supportive housing for persons experiencing chronic homelessness. The development would include on-site services for the residents available around the clock, coordinated by Lane County. This proposal would require approximately $850,000 in home funds. The second proposal is the Lucy by Cornerstone Community Housing, located in the Santa Clara neighborhood on Hunsaker Lane. The development is 36 units of affordable housing targeted to low, very low, and extremely low income households, including 3 units of transitional housing for survivors of domestic violence. 8 of the units targeted to households earning no more than 30% of area median income would include rent assistance to help the households afford rent. This proposal would require approximately $600,000 in home funds. Both of these proposals would also access the city's Systems Development Charge, or SDC, exemption program under city code and SDC assistance approved by City Council through the supplemental budget on December 14th, 2020. This evening, Council is asked to approve the use of over $1.4 million in home funds for these 2 project proposals. Because home funds are received as a consortium with Springfield, the Eugene Springfield Home Consortium Governing Board makes the final decisions for the use of home funds for these development projects based on the evaluation committee and the direction of council. The governing board is composed of the Eugene and Springfield mayors, 1 Springfield city councilor, and 1 Eugene city councilor. So City of Eugene is represented by Mayor Vinnis and Councilor Simple, who's replacing Councilor Pryor starting this year. Thanks for your ongoing support of affordable housing and your consideration of these project proposals. If there are no questions, I can also move on to discussing the LRPDs.
I do have a question about that. So units doesn't necessarily equal people. I know that we've got 400 units in our plan and we've got 245 either complete or under construction. And so these units, I think there's 80 of them, but do we have a sense of how many people that is instead of units that get housed?
Oh man, you're gonna stump me on this. 45 in 1100 Charnelton, the 45 units are studio apartments. So those are thought to be probably single people in each one. But of course, as residency turns over, you're affecting much more people over time. In the Lucy, I don't have it pulled up exactly. I'm looking at the agenda item summary right now. There are 1, 2, and 3 bedrooms.
2 bedrooms.
For
35
so,
of them.
like doing the math, 6 1-bedrooms, 21 2-bedrooms, and 9 3-bedroom apartments in there. So I can't do the math that quickly.
A lot more than 35.
Yes, certainly.
Yeah.
And actually, that is intended to be more of a family housing development.
Yeah, the reason I brought that up is because we talk about our homeless population, unsheltered population of that in terms of number of people. But when we talk about housing, we talk about units and they don't equate. So I think in the future, it would be nice to have those things kind of equate more, because when we build a 3-bedroom housing unit, we can put 3 or more people in there. That helps with the equivalency of unhoused homeless people and number of units. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. I see 2 additional hands raised. So I have Councilor Groves and then Councilor Clark.
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to say that I'm so impressed with both of these development organizations. And I had the opportunity last week to tour Willakinsey Crossing, which is a Cornerstone development. Darcy Phillips, the CEO of Cornerstone, took me through that. And I had no idea of the programs they also deliver. I mean, these, in fact, I drove by the development twice because I couldn't believe it was a low income development that I was seeing. It's beautiful. And, you know, it helps these people get back on their feet and develop skills to be truly independent and have a higher quality of life. So I am enthusiastically supporting this. Thank you. Thank you. Councilor Clark.
Thank you, Mayor. I too want to jump in with Alan and with Councilor Groves and echo their fine remarks here. I think Darcy and the folks at Cornerstone are doing amazing work. I think the progress that we've made here is fantastic, but I want us, we often talk and celebrate our wins, and I think that's a very good thing for us to do in this regard. But I think it's important to keep it in the context of what remains before us. And that if you look at the last 5 years since we established our UGB, we've created about 1,500 units of new housing, multifamily, affordable, single family. And to comply with the plan we created, we need to create 900 units a year for the next 15 years, every year, in order just to keep up with what we planned. And I suspect we could all understand that there's an argument that we planned for half of what will be needed, which is why Oregon is second only to Washington, D.C. as the tightest housing market in the entire country. And while it's awesome for us to celebrate these wins, I think we have a gigantic hill to climb in front of us. And I wanted to just keep it in perspective. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I think we're ready to put a motion on the table for these final items of the consent calendar.
Great. So I move to approve items C, D, and E on consent calendar 1.
Second?
All in favor, please raise your hands. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and that passes. Thank you all very much. And I will thank the public for waiting for us to work through these items of business. We are now ready to begin the public forum. The public forum is an opportunity for individuals to speak to the City Council on any city-related issues except for those items which have already been heard by a hearings official. When it is your turn, the moderator will announce your name and promote you to panelist status. Please state your name clearly and, for Eugene residents, your ward if known, before beginning your comments. Again, each person will have 2.5 minutes to speak. If you are watching the meeting, the timer should be visible. A yellow light will come on when you have 15 seconds to complete your comments. The red light and beep indicate the end of the 2.5 minutes. When your time has concluded, the moderator will demote you back to attendee status and move on to the next speaker. For those who have connected to the meeting via phone and don't have the benefit of seeing the timer, please be aware that your microphone will be muted at the 2.5 minute mark. And also, as I said earlier, the public forum will be limited to 90 minutes total. So if the number of speakers approaches or exceeds the time we have allotted for the forum, we encourage you to consider abbreviating your comments so that the maximum number of people have an opportunity to speak. Thank you very much. And with that, I will turn it over to the moderator.
Thank you, Mayor. So first we have Laura Allen, followed by Ty Preuss Zimmerman.
Thank you for providing me an opportunity to speak. My name is Laura Allen. I live in Ward 8. I'm a member of the Sustainability Commission, but I'm speaking as an individual this evening. I'm here to talk about natural gas use in Eugene and ask the City Council to do everything you can to reduce our use of it to help stabilize our climate. Natural gas coming into Eugene pollutes our air and causes harm in every step of its life cycle. It comes from fracked gas wells polluting communities far away. These wellheads leak methane, a greenhouse gas 84 times more potent than carbon dioxide. It travels to Eugene in hazardous pipelines that on the national scale explode every 4 days on average. Then gas pollutes our homes and harms human health. Children in homes with gas stoves have a 42% increased risk of asthma symptoms. Just 1 hour of cooking on a gas stove produces nitrogen dioxide levels that would be illegal if they were found outdoors. And the harms from pollution are not shouldered equally in our community. Across the country and in Eugene, people of color and communities living on lower incomes are unequally exposed to this pollution. Eugene must reduce our natural gas use and transition to a clean and just energy future. The current franchise agreement with Northwest Natural is a place City Council can make a real impact in reducing future emissions. This is a timely opportunity, and I urge you to take bold action to bring down our use of fossil fuels. I ask you to refuse to sign a new franchise agreement with Northwest Natural unless they agree to terms that will align with the Climate Recovery Ordinance goals. We need a just transition away from fossil fuels and to transition all our utilities to 100% renewables by 2030. We need fossil fuel companies, Northwest Natural, to pay into a fund to support low-income and marginalized communities to switch to clean energy. And a small but critical first step is to ban expansion of new fossil fuel infrastructure in the city. Thank you.
Next is Ty, followed by Joan.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. My name is Ty Bruce Zimmerman, and I live in Ward 6. As you know, I am the Vice Chair of the Budget Committee and the Co-Chair of the Active Bethel Community Neighborhood Association, but tonight I am here representing only myself. I want to welcome our two new councilors, Randy, Matt. I'm excited. It's really great to have your voices added to the conversation here, and I'm confident that you'll both be excellent additions and do really great work on behalf of the city. And Matt, this shirt is for you. I also want to share that after I largely pulled back from my own involvement with city affairs over the past year for an obvious and adorable reason, I am now ready to re-engage. So expect to see a lot more of me at upcoming meetings, and hopefully at least one or two of you will find that an exciting prospect. In any case, what I will be focused on, watching for, and working towards is seeing 2021 prove to be a year of action. I've never doubted that this body shares my general vision for Eugene, but at times I haven't always seen the tangible results of that vision. So I'll be looking for clear, tangible, and substantial actions to safely transition our unhoused populations into shelter and ultimately housing, to move us closer to our emissions goals under the Climate Recovery Ordinance, to ensure that our approach to community safety actually leaves all segments of our community feeling safe, particularly the BIPOC segment, along with other marginalized groups who have made it clear how far we are from where we need to be in this regard. I won't try to dig into any of these topics further in the next 47 seconds. There's plenty of time for that in the future, but for now, I simply look forward to the upcoming year and to all the work that we'll do together moving forward. So thank you and have a great evening.
Okay, we have Joan, followed by Rachel.
Hi, my name is Joan Kleban. I live in Ward 1. I'm a volunteer with 350 Eugene. We're living in a climate disruption that impacts our community, our economy, public health, and children's futures, indeed everyone's future. It's time to stop business as usual. With good foresight, in 2014, the Eugene City Council agreed to adopt the Climate Recovery Ordinance that includes stated goals to reduce carbon emissions via long-term planning. Now, 7 years into the ordinance, the carbon reduction required by the CRO is already out of reach unless and until bold, immediate actions are taken by the current City Council. The time is now to heed the science and the common sense that's required to stop political negotiations with Northwest Natural Gas and hold firm about no new fossil fuel infrastructure. To have Northwest Natural support Eugene City residents' transition away from fossil fuels and to transition equitably to clean energy will be a big step in reducing our collective carbon footprint. There's no question that this is not business as usual for Northwest Natural. The writing is on the wall. Northwest Natural is greenwashing their presentation of so-called renewable gas It is a further cloak paired with natural that provides little or no carbon reduction emissions in the delivery of their fossil fuel. Eugene City Council and Mayor Vinis are poised to become climate heroes, to be good ancestors. They can support the future with triage-focused decisions, not easy but essential tough choices that might mitigate the disruption we're experiencing. I'm hopeful that our elected councilors are ready to be actively involved in making bold changes toward a renewable energy future for Eugene. Thank you.
Okay, next is Rachel, followed by Catherine.
Hello, my name is Rachel Dides, and I'm the Vice President of the Students Cooperative Association, a housing collective here in Eugene. And tonight I'm speaking for myself. I live in Ward 3, and I'm requesting that the City Council pass a series of ordinances to 1, mandate the transition of all utilities in the city to 100% renewable energy by 2030, 2, ban the construction of all new fossil fuel infrastructure in the city, 3, levy a fee on Northwest Natural and other climate polluters to create a fund to transition low-income and historically marginalized communities from fracked gas to electric appliances and to retrofit these homes to increase efficiency. Here are some reasons why we need these ordinances. 1 hour of cooking on a gas stove produces nitrogen dioxide levels that would be illegal if found outdoors. Children in homes with gas stoves have a 42% increased risk of asthma symptoms. Air pollution health issues disproportionately impact communities of color in Oregon who are already more likely to live in areas with higher levels of outdoor air pollution. We already know that burning natural gas is not healthy for our bodies or our earth. So please do the right thing. I'd also like to comment about another issue quickly. I also call on all of you to defund and disarm the police, redirect funds to expanding cahoots and investing in affordable housing so we can end houselessness. Please do right by us. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Catherine Dunn, followed by Corey. Catherine, please unmute.
Sorry about that. Catherine Dunn, Ward 5, Eugene Short-Term Rental Association. I want to start by welcoming the new counselors, and I want to wish everyone a happy new year. Last year, the City Council adopted an ordinance that requires short-term rental owners to register their properties, and that started January 1. We were able to do that now. On December 17th, we received an email from the city with a link to the new registration page, and it reminded us that the information required is the name of the owner, the address of the STR, whether that is owner occupied, as well as the name and phone of a local contact in case of questions or complaints. And all that sounds fine, and it was expected per the ordinance. But then the email went on to announce that a separate database with the contact's name and phone number would be made available to the general public. And it provided a link to a page where anyone can enter an address to determine if it's a short-term rental and get a name and phone number. Making the contact name and phone number or any information easily accessible to the general public was not agreed to. It was not voted on or formalized in the ordinance. It was our understanding that any registration information would be provided to the city solely for its use, and that would allow the city to gather data to analyze short-term rental complaints and see what impact we're making on the city, and also provide the city with a name and phone number for their use if needed in order to contact the STR owner or manager. I did contact the city to inquire about this surprise, and I was told that the public database is for neighbors to use to contact someone when city staff are not available to respond to complaints like after hours or on weekends. Short-term rental hosts are fine with registration per the adopted ordinance. We're ready to register, but we're kind of waiting to hear what the city has to say about this. We do object to making our personal information readily available to the general public, as it does cause a plethora of risks. Most complaints can wait until a weekday when city services are available, and for emergencies, of course, the police department is open 24 hours a day. So we ask you to abandon this separate database. Thank you very much for listening.
Thank you. Next is Corey, followed by Ixtlali Torres.
Hello, thank you for allowing me the time to speak. Welcome to the new city councilors and Happy New Year to all of you. Thanks for your statements earlier, condemning the violence that has been going on locally and nationally. I think it is important that we all remember that we differ in opinions, but we're still human beings. There are people that we love and people that love us, and should consider that in how we conduct ourselves around one another. Like many that spoke before me, I just want to reiterate that the need to act on climate is way beyond the time for us to start dragging our feet. You all are in the position now, being our elected officials, to be the decision makers. And, you know, I imagine that you all have families and people you love that will be inheriting the mess from, you know, the generations that failed before them. So I really implore you all to be bold and do what we need to hopefully have a reasonable future for the people that will surpass us when we're long gone. Along those lines, you know, as you're renegotiating the franchise agreement with Northwest Natural, make sure that they have a plan to transition to renewable energy sources by 2030 to be in line with our climate recovery ordinance, and to ban all new infrastructure for non-renewable energy sources, and also to make sure that there's a fund to help transition low income and historically marginalized communities to the cleaner sources so that they're not also suffering from being left behind. Thank you to the City Manager Mederi for clarifying a little bit about the new administrative rule that you proposed. I encourage the delay of that rule further to get more time to hear more about that and the reasoning behind it, because it still seems a little dubious, and many people are probably still not convinced that it's yet another way to further marginalize the unhoused community members that are already suffering greatly. So thank you very much. Appreciate the time and look forward to hearing more about how you are going to lead us into a better future.
Thank you. Next is Ixtlali Torres, followed by Haley Case Scott.
Hello, thank you for the opportunity for me to speak. My name is Ixtlali Torres. I live in Ward 2. I'm here to testify in regards to the ongoing use and expansion of natural gas and other fossil fuel infrastructure in the city of Eugene. As a planning, public policy, and management student at the University of Oregon, and having grown up in Eugene my whole life, this issue is very important to me because my future is important to me. It is the city's legal and moral responsibility to do everything in its power to eliminate greenhouse gas emissions in line with the recommendations of the best available science, and invest in building climate resilient communities freed from reliance on fossil fuels. If the city is serious about reducing these emissions, City Council must mandate that the new buildings on downtown riverfront be built with electric utilities, and all new construction must be built without natural gas hookups. We must follow the lead of progressive cities around the US and begin the transition to renewable energy for all of its citizens. I'm requesting the council pass the ordinances necessary, mandate the transition of all utilities in the city to 100% renewable energy by 2030, ban the construction of all new fossil fuel infrastructure in the city, and levy a fee on the Northwest Natural and other climate polluters to create a fund to transition low income and historically marginalized communities from fracked gas and to electric appliances, and to retrofit these homes to increase efficiency. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next is Haley, followed by Jenna Witzelman.
Perfect. So I'll just get started. I don't know when the clock starts. Hello, City Councilors and Mayor Finnis. Thank you for providing me an opportunity to give testimony. My name is Haley K. Scott, and I'm a member of the Confederated Tribes of Siletz Indians, and I'm a community member here in Lane County, and I work in the city of Eugene and work to address environmental and climate injustices within our community. And today I am testifying as an individual. And so I am here today to testify in regards to the ongoing use and expansion of natural gas and other fossil fuel infrastructure in the city of Eugene. As the climate crisis worsens, I believe it is of utmost importance that we take extensive measures to eliminate its carbon emissions and provide for a just transition to renewable energies. As such, I expect that with bold city leadership, the city of Eugene will meet the goals of the Climate Recovery Ordinance that was adopted in 2014 and modified in 2016 by the year 2030. Black, Indigenous, and people of color communities, as well as low-income populations, experience the worst impacts caused by climate change, yet they contribute the least to its problem. Any climate actions that the city takes must ensure that these communities are prioritized and centered in the movement towards renewable energy. This transition must also recognize that families and individuals who rent do not have the same access to energy-efficient houses or incentives as those who own their homes. And so, councilors, you are faced with a unique opportunity to reimagine Eugene's energy future. And in your efforts to renegotiate the city's franchise agreement with Northwest Natural, you have the opportunity to forge a path toward a just transition in the city. And so I ask that the city does everything in its power to eliminate greenhouse gas emissions in line with the recommendations of best available science, and most importantly, invest in building climate resilient communities and homes. Thank you.
Next is Jenna, followed by Tim Kovash. Jenna, please unmute. So it looks like we're not getting any sound. So Jenna, I'm gonna skip you and come back. Please try logging off and logging back on. So we're gonna go to Tim, followed by Aaron.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, my name is Tim Kovash. I'm a Eugene resident from Ward 1. Good evening, Mayor and Council. I'm here to speak tonight about the ongoing short-term rental registration. Excuse me. We recently received a concerning email from city staff that included plans to create a publicly accessible online database with portions of our personal information for public consumption. It was our understanding that a local contact would be required for registration to be used by city staff in the event of a valid complaint and not shared in a public format. While providing this information to the city for internal use is reasonable, releasing this personal information on the internet is unacceptable. This online database, searchable by house address, which leads to some very serious privacy and safety concerns, not only for short-term rental hosts, but also for neighbors and property owners. If this information is being posted online for complaint purposes, there are already existing avenues for the reporting of nuisance issues, the same ones used by any citizen for any other business sector in Eugene. Short-term rentals do not require some unique specialized reporting mechanism that puts owners' personal safety at risk. Our issue is not with the registration or providing the local contact information. The concern is with the public access to this information. We kindly ask for you to not allow this database to exist in a public format and keep it internal to city staff. Thank you very much for your time. Have a good evening.
Thank you. Jenna, I am trying your audio again. Please unmute if you are ready.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Great. Hello, my name is Jenna Witzleben and I live in Ward 3. Thank you, City Council members, for the opportunity to testify. I am a landscape architecture student at the University of Oregon and part of Sunrise Eugene. This term, my coursework is centering around the Cascadia subduction zone. As many of you have probably read, the Pacific Northwest is likely to see a magnitude 9 earthquake within the 21st century. Along with the many losses and catastrophic effects that will face communities all throughout the West Coast, a major red flag that is mentioned across all of the documentation and planning is that the impact that such an earthquake will have on oil and gas infrastructure. Pipelines will be broken and storage facilities will collapse in liquefied soils, releasing natural gas and other hazardous materials into our air and water. This poses not only a threat of added greenhouse gas emissions, but also a threat on human health, which will be particularly hard on BIPOC and low-income communities who already bear the brunt of health challenges from environmental injustice. Building more infrastructure for natural gas here in Eugene is just setting the scene for this kind of disaster. So I'm requesting that the City Council pass a series of ordinances to mandate the transition of all utilities in the city to 100% renewable energy by 2030, ban the construction of all new fossil fuel infrastructure in the city, and levy a fee on Northwest Natural and other climate polluters to create a fund to transition low-income and historically marginalized communities from fracked gas to electric appliances and to retrofit these homes to increase efficiency. Thank you very much.
Next is Aaron Donnelly, followed by Sahara Valentine.
Hello, this is Aaron Donnelly. I'm Senior Accounts Manager for Sanapac, garbage and recycling hauler in Eugene. Thank you, Mayor, City Council, and City staff for the opportunity to speak tonight. Sanapac and its employees fully support the proposed amendments to the Solid Waste Administrative Rule R 3.250 that were published on December 18th. As one of the city's licensees providing solid waste and recycling collection service, Sanapac and other licensed haulers will be directly impacted by the changes to these rules. We feel it is very important to ensure the city's rules for solid waste collection promote best practices for recycling and solid waste collection and disposal, while also ensuring the health and safety of the public and our employees. We feel that these changes will do that. The proposed amendments will help ensure that our frontline essential workers are put in a better position to avoid unnecessary contact with loose waste that has fallen out of a commercial container when we are servicing it. This change in language would not come at a more important time as garbage haulers are facing major health and safety challenges due to the emergence of COVID-19. So I'm here today to show support for these changes that will surely have a positive impact on the health and safety of our 125 valued frontline employees at Sanapac. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Now we have Sahara, followed by Sam Stout.
Can you hear me? Great. Mayor Venice, City Councilors, and City Manager Maderi, thank you for this opportunity. My name is Sahara Valentine, and I am a member of EG350. I am also part of the younger community in our city, the community that will be inheriting the climate crisis. That is very scary, but you have the power to make my future livable. At the very least, I'm expecting that with bold city leadership, the City of Eugene will meet the Climate Recovery Ordinance goals by 2030. Being young, my voice is often pushed aside or deemed as less important than others. I ask you to hear my voice now. Lives are on the line. Help us reimagine our city's energy future by refusing to sign a new franchise agreement with Northwest Natural unless they agree to terms that put us on track to meet our CRO goals and are in line with the desire of the constituents that you serve. It is the city's legal and moral responsibility to do everything in its power to eliminate GHG emissions in line with the recommendations of the best available science and invest in building climate resilient communities freed from reliance on fossil fuels. As such, In addition to renegotiating our franchise agreement with Northwest Natural, I am requesting that the City Council pass a series of ordinances to mandate the transition of all utilities in the city to 100% renewable energy by 2030, ban the construction of all new fossil fuel infrastructure in the city, and levy a fee on Northwest Natural and other climate polluters to create a fund to transition low-income and historically marginalized communities from fracked gas to electric appliances, and to retrofit these homes to increase efficiency. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Next is Sam Stout, followed by Isabella Wild.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for giving me an opportunity to provide testimony. My name is Sam. I'm 20 years old and I have lived in Eugene my entire life. I currently live in Ward 2. I'm here today to testify in regards to the ongoing use and expansion of natural gas and other fossil fuel infrastructure in my hometown of Eugene. I first got involved with the climate justice movement in high school, where I was part of the EG350 Club, which focused on decreasing fossil fuel emissions and increasing youth involvement and awareness of the climate crisis in our local community. I participated in 2 youth lobby days at the state capitol under OILI, the Oregon Youth Legislative Initiative, where we pushed to pass the Clean Energy Jobs Bill in 2018 and again in 2019. We were unsuccessful in getting our voices heard by our local representatives. As the climate crisis worsens, we have already seen an extraordinary change in our local environment. This summer alone, hundreds of Oregonians lost their homes and loved ones to unprecedented and preventable wildfires. That was one look into what our future will be like if we don't take immediate action to stop the climate crisis in our local community. It is important to remember that fracked gas has been a significant contributor to the city of Eugene's greenhouse gas emissions, and that its extraction and transportation disproportionately impacts marginalized, low-income, and BIPOC communities. It is the city's legal and moral responsibility to do everything in its power to eliminate greenhouse gas emissions in line with the recommendations of the available science and invest in building climate-resilient communities freed from reliance on fossil fuels. With that being said, I am here to ask that the City Council pass a series of ordinances to mandate the transition of all utilities in the city to 100% renewable energy by 2030, ban the construction of all new fossil fuel and infrastructure in the city, levy a fee on Northwest Natural and other climate polluters to create a fund to transition low-income and historically marginalized communities from fracked gas to electric appliances, and to retrofit these homes to increase efficiency. Additionally, I ask that our elected leaders refuse to continue a franchise agreement with Northwest Natural unless they agree to terms that put us on track to meet our CRO goals. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Isabella, followed by Hollis Mann.
Hi, thank you for providing me an opportunity to give testimony. My name is Isabella Wilby from Ward 2, and I'm a member of EG350, a club at South dedicated to fighting climate change. I'm here today to testify in regards to the ongoing use and expansion of fracked gas and other fossil fuel infrastructure in the city of Eugene. As it becomes more and more apparent that climate change is threatening our land and future, I expect my representatives and councilors to act against the use of fossil fuels. To do this, I request the city leadership of the city of Eugene will meet the goals of the Climate Recovery Ordinance by the year 2030. Councilors, you have an exciting path forward, one that takes a bold step in the right direction, to reduce Eugene's carbon footprint by the year 2030 and to give the youth of Eugene and the rest of the world a fighting chance at the future. We ask that you refuse to sign a new franchise agreement with Northwest Natural until they agree to the terms that put us on track to meet the CRO goals. You have a duty to your constituents and the youth of Eugene to make every effort possible to ensure that we get a future with clean air, water, and soil, and that starts here. It's the city's legal and ethical responsibility to keep our best interests in mind, and that includes doing everything in its power to eliminate carbon emissions and invest in Eugene free of fossil fuel dependency. To do this, we request the following: renegotiate the franchise agreement with Northwest Natural, mandate the transition of all utilities in the city to 100% renewable energy by 2030, ban the construction of all new fossil fuel infrastructure in the city, and levy a fee on Northwest Natural and other climate producers. I believe in this city and hope we can all make the right choice now to protect ourselves and make future generations proud. Please don't let this be another missed opportunity to make a change. Don't let the youth of our town down. Thank you again.
Thank you. Next is Hollis, followed by Sophia Trotter.
Hello, thank you for providing me an opportunity to give testimony. My name is Hollis and I'm a member of the EG 350 Club. I live in Ward 2. I'm here today to testify in regards to the ongoing use and expansion of natural gas and other fossil fuel infrastructure in the city of Eugene. As the climate crisis worsens, it is of the utmost importance for the city to be taking measurements to eliminate its carbon emissions and allow for a just transition to renewable energies. As such, I expect that the City of Eugene will make the goals of the Climate Recovery Ordinance by the year 2030. Councilors, you are faced with a unique opportunity to reimagine Eugene's energy future. In your efforts to renegotiate the city's franchise agreement with NW Natural, you have the opportunity to completely decarbonize our city and equitably move our community into the new decade. Or you can double down on the same old status quo that has brought us here. We are at a crossroads, and so I ask, refuse to sign a new franchise agreement with NWN unless they agree to the terms that put us on track to meet our CRO goals and in line with the desire of the constituents you serve. It is the city's legal and moral responsibility to do everything in its power to eliminate GHG emissions in line with the recommendations of the best available science, and invest in building climate-resilient communities freed from reliance on fossil fuels. As such, in addition to renegotiating our franchise agreement to NW Natural, I'm requesting that the City Council pass a series of ordinances to mandate the transition of all utilities in the city to 100% renewable energy by 2030, ban the construction of all new fossil fuel infrastructure in the city, and levy a fee on NW Natural and other climate polluters to create a fund to transition low-income and historically marginalized communities from fracked gas to electric appliances, and to retrofit these homes to increase efficiency. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Sophia, followed by Maddie Carduna.
Hi, I'm Sophia, and I'm a member of Sunrise Eugene, a hub for the National Climate Organization fighting for climate, racial, and economic justice and a Green New Deal on the local, state, and federal level. And I'm here today with the others before me to testify in regards to the ongoing use and expansion of natural gas. So I grew up in Eugene, and I've always had a pride in how our people care for the environment. And I genuinely believe our city could become a prominent climate justice leader. With that said, it is my understanding that you all as councilors are faced with a unique opportunity right now to create a green future for Eugene. In your efforts to renegotiate the city's franchise agreement with Northwest Natural, you have the opportunity to forge a path towards a just transition in the city. And so I ask that you all refuse to sign a new franchise agreement with Northwest Natural unless they agree to terms that put us on track to meet our CRO goals and in line with the desire of the constituents that you serve. In addition to renegotiating our franchise agreement, I am requesting that the City Council pass a series of ordinances to 1, mandate the transition of all utilities in the city to 100% renewable energy by 2030, ban the construction of all new fossil fuel infrastructure in the city, and levy a fee on the Northwest Natural and other climate polluters to create a fund to transition low-income and historically marginalized communities from fracked gas to electric appliances, and to retrofit these homes to increase efficiency. I'd also like to add that sweeping homeless camps, particularly if there are no guaranteed places for people to go, is inhumane and must end. And I'm in support of any efforts to increase affordable housing. And I'm also in support of any moves to strengthen policing alternatives like Cahoots. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Maddie, followed by Leanne Jashway.
Mayor Vinnis, City Councilors, and City Manager Maderi. I appreciate this opportunity to testify today. My name is Maddie Carduna, and I'm a senior at South Eugene High School, as well as one of the leaders of our school's environmental club, EG 350. I am here to testify today about the City of Eugene's continued consumption and amplification of fossil fuels and natural gas. As a young person, the future of my planet is my future. And as the climate crisis continually worsens, I consider it to be more important now than ever that the City of Eugene focus and put effort into eliminating carbon emissions and a transition to renewable energy. Councilors, my future is in your hands, as well as the future of Eugene. You must take this opportunity to renegotiate the franchise agreement with Northwest Natural to completely decarbonize Eugene. This decision will have a huge impact on my life and all the lives of future lives of people of Eugene. As it approaches time to re-sign this contract, I ask that you think of the future of the city. I request that you refuse to sign a new contract agreement with Northwest Natural unless they agree to terms that put us on track to meet our climate recovery ordinance by 2030. It is the city's moral responsibility to do everything in their power to eliminate greenhouse gas emissions. As such, in addition to renegotiating the franchise agreement with Northwest Natural, I am requesting that the City Council pass a series of ordinances to mandate the transition of all utilities in the city to 100% renewable energy by 2030, ban the construction of all new fossil fuel infrastructure in the city, and levy a fee on Northwest Natural and other climate polluters to create a fund to transition low-income and historically marginalized communities from fracked gas to electronic appliances and to retrofit these homes to increase efficiency. Thank you for your time, and we are counting on you to make the right decisions.
Thank you. It looks like some people have dropped off. So next is going to be Cynthia Black, followed by Michael Kerrigan.
Hello, can you hear me? Okay, my name is Cynthia Black. I'm in Ward 1. I'm a member of the group Climate Revolutions by Bike. We advocate for biking as a low carbon alternative to driving cars. We have a revolutionary vision of more bikes than cars on the streets every day. We need radical solutions to the climate crisis. One way to encourage more biking and less driving is to create the infrastructure. I know you've probably heard some complaints about the 13th Street protected bikeway, but it's a step in the right direction. I've read about the city plans to upgrade the cycling lane on High Street between 19th and 5th Avenues, and I strongly support the High Street project. Many people, especially my age, are scared to bike on streets shared with cars without some separation. The High Street project will create a protected bikeway all the way from South Amazon to the Riverbank Path. This will encourage many more people to commute by bike, thus reducing greenhouse gas emissions and supporting the city's goals. This project is of particularly emotional importance to me because I was hit by a van driver on my bike in that area just a few years ago and broke a lot of bones. A protected bikeway would have probably protected me. I'm a dedicated biker despite being hit because it supports my low impact lifestyle. But not everyone is as stubborn as me, and we need infrastructure and a massive PR campaign and economic incentives and anything else we can think of. Biking is a sustainable way of life. I invite you all to join the shift to a biking culture and be part of the Climate Revolutions movement. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Michael, followed by Jesse. Michael, please unmute. Michael, are you there?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, can you see me?
No.
Okay, because hearing is most important. So good evening. My name is Michael Kerrigan, a proud resident of Ward 7. And I'm here today to testify in regards to the ongoing use and expansion of natural gas and other fossil fuel infrastructure in our fine city. I'm also speaking tonight. I'm a volunteer with 350 and part of the Energy Coalition. I have a daughter, Jyoti, who's in her 20s. I want her to have a future free from the negative effects of climate change. As the climate crisis worsens, I believe it is of utmost importance for the city of Eugene to take action now to eliminate its carbon emissions and provide for a just transition to renewable energies so that the city can meet the goals of the Climate Recovery Ordinance by the year 2030. This will help ensure that Jyoti and others in her generation can thrive like our generation has. Councilors, you can use this opportunity to start a process to fully decarbonize our city and help our community move toward a fossil-free future. I ask you to refuse to sign a new franchise agreement with Northwest Natural unless they agree to terms that put us on track to meet our CRO goals. In addition to, well, this is an environmental justice issue. Studies have shown that children in homes with gas stoves are more likely to have asthma, and for renters in low-income households, switching away from toxic gas appliances is not always an option. In addition, frac gas extraction and transportation disproportionately impacts historically marginalized, low-income, and BIPAC communities. The city should create a just transition fund to help them transition from frac gas to electricity. And like the previous speaker, I love riding my bike in town. So do all you can to make sure that we can ride safely here in Eugene. Thank you for giving me a chance to speak tonight.
Thank you. Next is Jesse, followed by Selena Blick.
All right. Mayor Venice, City Councilors, and City Manager Maderi, thank you for providing me an opportunity to give testimony. My name is Jesse, and I'm a member of Sunrise Eugene, a hub for national climate organization fighting for climate justice on the local, state, and federal level. I'm here today to testify in regards to the ongoing use and expansion of natural gas and other fossil fuel infrastructure in the city of Eugene. As the climate crisis worsens and the people least responsible bear the horrific brunt, I believe it is of utmost importance for the city to be taking extensive measures to eliminate its carbon emissions and provide for a transition to still harmful renewable energies and ultimately a just transition beyond extractive energy altogether. We certainly can't get there without moving away from fossil fuels right now. As such, I expect the city of Eugene will meet the goals of the Climate Recovery Ordinance by the year 2030. Councilors, you're faced with a unique opportunity to reimagine Eugene's energy future. In your efforts to renegotiate the city's franchise agreement with Northwest Natural, you have the opportunity to forge a path toward a just transition in the city. You can use this opportunity to start a process to completely decarbonize the city and equitably move our community into the new decade. Or you can double down on the same old status quo that has brought us here. And so I ask, refuse to sign a new franchise agreement with Northwest Natural unless they agree to terms that put us on track to meet our CRO goals and in line with the desire of the constituents that you serve. It is the city's legal and moral responsibility to do everything in its power to eliminate greenhouse gas emissions in line with the recommendations of the best available science and invest in building climate resilient communities freed from reliance on fossil fuels. As such, I'm requesting that the City Council pass a series of ordinances to mandate the transition of all utilities in the city to 100% renewable energy by 2030, ban the construction of all new fossil fuel infrastructure in the city, levy a ban on Northwest Natural and other climate polluters to create a fund to transition low-income and historically marginalized communities from fracked gas to electric appliances and to retrofit these homes to increase efficiency. Additionally, I ask that our elected leaders refuse to continue a franchise agreement with Northwest Natural unless they agree to terms that put us on track to meet our CRO goals. I also support defunding and demilitarizing APD. Police and prisons exist in part to protect the interests of gas companies like Northwest Natural when people resist their expansion and extraction. Decriminalize survival and land defense, defund and abolish the police, and invest in community. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Next is Selena, followed by Doyle Canning.
Hi, my name is Selena Blick, and I'm here with 350 Eugene and our Fossil Free Eugene Coalition. I'm here today to testify in regards to the ongoing use and expansion of fracked gas infrastructure in Eugene. I started worrying about climate change when I was about 10 years old. Now I'm almost 24, and I'm even more scared. I'm scared that many places on our planet will become inhabitable and people living there will become refugees, which is already happening. I'm scared that the changes in weather will prevent crops from growing and lead to drastic food shortages. I'm scared that we'll run out of water. I'm scared that these impacts will lead to horrific wars and famines.
all within my lifetime. But mostly I'm scared that the people in power won't do anything to stop these terrible things from happening until it's too late. The Eugene City Council might not have the power to stop climate change, but you have a role to play, and that role is to do as much as you possibly can. The climate recovery ordinance goals are great, but they're just goals and they accomplish nothing by themselves. In order to achieve these goals, you must stand up to companies like Northwest Natural. You must mandate the transition of all utilities in the city to 100% renewable energy by 2030. You must ban the construction of all new fossil fuel infrastructure in Eugene. And you must levy a fee on Northwest Natural to create a justice fund that helps transition low-income households off of fracked gas. To do anything less is to allow climate polluters to continue to ruin the future of my entire generation and all generations to come. I hope you will take your job seriously as leaders of this city and fight for our future. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Doyle, followed by Elon Ginsberg.
Good evening. My name is Doyle Canning. I'm a resident of Ward 2, and I'm here to support the Sunrise Movement and the movement to not renew the contract with Northwest Natural Gas if it does not comply with the Climate Recovery Ordinance. I'm also here to talk about the serious political crisis facing our country and our community, as Councillor Surratt so articulately discussed at the top of the meeting. I want to thank you for speaking directly to that in this moment. We need your leadership. And I want to talk about the the ordinance passed by this body in 2019 condemning white nationalist violence. And talk about the fact that the Proud Boys had a brawl in our streets on Saturday, 72 hours after the attack on our Capitol. They were marching through the streets of Eugene with baseball bats and fisticuffs and presumably lethal weapons. This is alarming. If this does not alarm you, if this seems somehow normal or not a big deal, we're in big trouble. The political crisis facing our country is grave, as I'm sure you all know. The Proud Boys are classified as a hate organization by the Southern Poverty Law Center. The Canadian government is currently discussing classifying them as a terrorist organization. Their leaders were central to the planning and execution of the attack on our Capitol. I tuned into a radio program tonight here in Oregon, live radio with leaders of the Proud Boys recruiting in our community. This is dangerous. This is imminent. Free speech and assembly is a sacred right and value that we hold dear. But the Proud Boys are not a peaceful organization, and their assemblies are not peaceful. They have brawled in the streets of Portland all summer, and they showed up in Eugene on Saturday. And I want to urge you all to take action, whatever action you can take as the leadership of our city. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Elon, followed by Cascadia Wildlands.
Thank you for providing me an opportunity to give testimony. My name is Elon Ginsberg. I'm 19 and I live in Eugene in Ward 2. Within my lifetime, I've already witnessed serious impacts of climate change on our town and state, such as devastating wildfires and changing weather patterns. Urgent action needs to be taken to address climate change on a municipal level. It's crucial that Eugene sets a precedent and steps up as a leader in stopping climate change now, before our local environment is stripped even further. I believe it is the city's legal and moral responsibility to do everything in its power to eliminate greenhouse gas emissions in line with the recommendations of the best available science and invest in building climate resilient communities freed from reliance on fossil fuels. As such, I'm requesting that the City Council passes a series of ordinances to mandate the transition of all utilities in the city to 100% renewable energy by 2030, ban the construction of all new fossil fuel infrastructure in the city, and levy a fee on Northwest Natural and other climate polluters to create a fund to transition low-income and historically marginalized communities from fracked gas to electric appliances and to retrofit these homes to increase efficiency. Thank you.
Thank you. Cascadia Wildlands has dropped off. So next is John Linkhart, followed by Lene Beal.
Thank you for the opportunity to share some thoughts about, I'll focus on the NW Natural franchise negotiations. I actually am a recent resident, and I am running into the housing shortage that was touched on earlier. So I'm not sure I have a ward right now, or it's flexible. But I relocated from Texas, and I can bring a perspective that might be interesting for all of you. I have actually seen firsthand what the impact of fracking production does to communities, to the environment, and to the climate. And actually see fracking and tar sands and deep ocean well drilling as sort of the last desperate attempts of the fossil fuel industry to retain its control of energy production sector. When I got to Eugene, I was very pleased and applaud the visionary leadership in this community, and as well as the city council in passing some goals in terms of climate that I think are very important. I guess what I would say, those goals are challenging, they're but doable, but they cannot be achieved if additional fossil fuel infrastructure is allowed to be built. And I think the other sort of in tandem with that is the need for a pretty clear pathway to phasing out existing systems. So ban further development, start phasing into how do you adjust for that. I think that will be essential. And from that standpoint, I support the recommendations. I wish you well. I appreciate your time, consideration to my thoughts, and wish you well in the negotiations with NW Natural. I think it's an opportunity. And I would say that it's important to be on the right side of history. And I'm seeing a city council that's really trying to do that. So I applaud that as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Cascadia Wildlands is back. So they are next, followed by Lene Beal.
Hey y'all, thanks so much for figuring that out. I don't know what happened there. My name is Dylan Plummer. I'm the grassroots organizer with Cascadia Wildlands. I'm here to testify on behalf of myself and my organization, and I am a resident of Ward 2, I believe. So yeah, thanks again for providing an opportunity to give testimony. I'm here just to echo the sentiments that have been expressed by so many folks more eloquent than myself, and especially the youth, the high schoolers who were there advocating on behalf of their future. That was a really poignant message that I think it's important for us to reflect on. As you know, there are kind of countless health and safety impacts, climate impacts, economic impacts, racial justice impacts of fossil fuel infrastructure, as have been elaborated by the folks who went before me on this hearing. And so I just want to echo that this is a very clear choice for the safety and the future of the city of Eugene. We need to be moving boldly. We need to be demonstrating leadership in our region and in our nation for meaningful climate action. We are entering into the 2020s, and this last year has shown to be probably one of the most challenging that the city of Eugene has ever faced. And this current year is already shaping up to be just as difficult, if not more so. And what we need at this moment is not more incrementalism. We need bold, leadership. We need bold action to move us into this new decade, strongly, passionately fighting for the values that we all share. I really appreciate all of your work for the city, and I hope that you will continue to move these issues forward. I also want to testify on behalf of myself as an individual and encourage you all to defund the police, disarm the police, and stop the sweeps on houseless camps throughout the city. It's really, in my opinion, just completely immoral to be removing people from where they're sleeping in the midst of a pandemic. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next is Lene, followed by phone ending in 588.
Good evening. Thank you for providing me with an opportunity to give testimony tonight. My name is Lena Beal, and I'm speaking on behalf of the Sunrise Eugene movement. I'm here today to testify in regards to the ongoing use and expansion of natural gas and other fossil fuel infrastructure on the city of Eugene. As the climate crisis worsens, I believe it is of utmost importance for the city to be taking extensive measures to eliminate its carbon emissions and provide for a just transition to renewable energies. Councilors, you are faced with a unique opportunity to reimagine Eugene's energy future. It's your efforts to renegotiate the city's franchise agreement with Northwest Natural. You have the opportunity to forge a path towards a just transition in the city. We are at a crossroads, and our city is looking for you for leadership. And so I ask you to refuse to sign any new franchise agreements with Northwest Natural unless they agree with terms that put us on track to meet our CRO goals or in line with the desires of the constituents you are serving. It is the city's legal and moral responsibility to do everything in its power to eliminate greenhouse gas emissions in line with the recommendations of the best available science and invest in building climate resilient community free of resilient fossil fuels. In addition to renegotiating our franchise agreement with Northwest Natural, I am requesting that the City Council pass a series of ordinances. 1, mandate the transition of all utilities in the city to 100% renewable energy by 2030. 2, ban the construction of all new fossil fuel infrastructure in the city. And lastly, levy a fee on Northwest Natural and other climate polluters to create a fund to transition low-income and historically marginalized communities from fracked gas to electric appliances and to retrofit these homes to increase efficiency. Putting into action these 3 ordinances and refusing to sign any new franchise agreements with Northwest Natural will make grave steps towards eliminating carbon emissions and providing for a just transition to renewable energy in Eugene. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Next is phone ending in 588, followed by Heather Kwas Ansah. Phone ending in 588, please unmute. Okay, we're gonna go to Heather.
Can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Awesome. Okay. Hi, I'm Heather Kwasanza. I'm from Ward 6. First, I want to say thank you to the City Council and Mayor Venice for their past condemnation of white nationalism. My request tonight is for the City of Eugene to unequivocally denounce the right-wing extremists like the Proud Boys and publicly share how the city and Eugene Police Department plan to protect its citizens from these types of hate groups. As a Jewish Hispanic woman with a queer child, I can tell you that the lack of police presence at this weekend's hate rally is truly alarming. Freedom of speech and peaceful assembly are crucial tools when advocating for change. The message shared by this group, however, was not one of peace, but one of violence. They've shown us their true colors yet again by carrying weapons, spewing offensive rhetoric, and threatening any who oppose them. I shudder to think how my family could have easily been verbally or, God forbid, physically assaulted had we been downtown on Saturday. I implore you to ensure the safety of all residents by at least requiring EPD to actively detail any future rally by the Proud Boys or other like-minded extremist groups. Albert Einstein said, "The world is a dangerous place to live, not because of the people who are evil, but because of the people who don't do anything about it." Eugene is dangerous enough with the pandemic, increased stress because of financial hardships, mental exhaustion from trying to juggle working from home while kids are distance learning. There's lots of stuff going on right now. My friends, family, and neighbors all deserve to feel safe in the city they call home. The city must loudly condemn the Proud Boys and their ilk. Hate has no home here. These racist, sexist, homophobic, transphobic, Islamophobic, and anti-Semitic groups must be told they are not welcome in our city. Your citizens need you to take action now before someone is hurt or killed. Thank you so much for giving me time to share my thoughts tonight.
Thank you. I'm going to try phone ending in 588 one more time. Please unmute. And followed by 588 will be Nicholas Tippins. Okay, Nicholas Tippins, you're next, followed by Lynn Woodrich.
Hello, you can hear me okay?
Yes.
Great. My name is Nicholas Tippins. I live in Ward 8. Many of you spoke eloquently about your abhorrence of the violence we saw at our nation's capital last week. I wholeheartedly echo Doyle Canning's and Heather Kos-Ansa's comments about the Proud Boys' threat to our community. I also urge you to consider that the lack of bold action on climate change is itself a form of violence and will lead to unnecessary deaths. What's more, the disastrous effects of climate change fall most heavily on the Black, Indigenous, and people of color in our community, and on the generations of your children and grandchildren. Fossil fuel infrastructure also poses more immediate dangers to our community. On average, between 2016 and 2018, a gas pipeline incident has killed someone, sent someone to the hospital, or caused a fire or explosion once every 4 days nationwide. You have a clear moral choice before you, one that has the potential to impact thousands, if not more, lives. I ask you to refuse to sign a new franchise agreement with Northwest Natural unless they agree to terms that put us on track to meet the CRO goals. In addition, I'm requesting that the City Council pass a series of ordinances to mandate the transition of all utilities in the city to 100% renewable energy by 2030, ban the construction of all new fossil fuel infrastructure in the city, levy a fee on Northwest Natural and other climate polluters to create a fund to transition low-income and historically marginalized communities from fracked gas to electric appliances. Wow, I said that all in one breath. Secondly, City Manager Mederi, you said that it's concerning to you that people would assume that this new proposal is intended to criminalize houselessness. I ask you to please take a moment to reflect on why people might think this. Perhaps it is because the city of Eugene has been waging a veritable war on houseless people, endangering their lives by forcing them out of self-isolation during a pandemic against CDC guidelines and destroying their survival gear. Politics aside, these sweeps are simply heartless. We are unnecessarily causing great suffering to people whose lives are already challenging. The way we treat the human beings who live on the streets says something about who we are as a community. Right now, our actions say that we do not value human life or dignity. This is who we are now, but who do we want to be? Finally, I call on you to defund and disarm UOPD and redirect those funds to community services like Cahoots. Thanks for your time.
Thank you. Lynn, you're next, followed by Steve Kiernan.
My name's Lynn Woodrich, and I'm the Active Bethel Community Co-Chair with Ty. Living in Ward 6 with my 92-year-old dad, and I'm a homeowner in the Bethel portion of Ward 8. I'm also 2 houses down from Heather. On April 22nd, the City of Eugene presented Bethel redevelopment to the City Council, and you passed a motion 7-1 to direct the city manager to develop a comprehensive planning, implementation, and funding strategy to achieve community and economic prosperity in Bethel. The first strategy was continued neighborhood engagement and capacity building. Since then, Active Bethel Community had a Building a Better Bethel Zoom meeting on April 25th with elected officials hearing ideas from Bethel residents. ABC has increased our email reach from 300 to 595. and we formed the Bethel Business Alliance, which has included many local businesses in our Shop Local promotions to the Bethel neighborhood. We hosted 3 social justice Zoom meetings and have formed a social equity work group. We've submitted a grant proposal with Safe Routes to Parks to improve Gilbert Park and have partnered with UO's Live Move, who are helping to make Echo Hollow Road safer for all. We're also helping the Bethesda Pantry by filling food drive barrels in many of our Bethel Business Alliance businesses due to extra needs caused by COVID-19. We are doing our part and will keep growing our community reach. We know the city manager has a full plate at this time, but we need to continue with our efforts to build a better Bethel and ask the City Council to let ABC know the progress in the motion. No longer do we want to be referred to as Felony Flats. We're proud to live in Bethel and want to see it thrive. Now we just ask the City Council to join us in helping Bethel be all that it can be. Please encourage the City Manager's office to include ABC in developing a comprehensive planning, implementation, and funding strategy to achieve community and economic prosperity in Bethel. The Bethel neighborhood needs to be next in line to receive the Envision Eugene planning. Our last neighborhood plan was created in 1982. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Steve, followed by Betsy Hitz.
Hello, my name is Steve Kiernan, live in Ward 8. I would like to echo some of the praise to Mayor Vennis and the council for your commitment against to oppose white supremacy in the city. I served 5 years in the Marine Corps, got my legs blown off in Iraq, so I know something about commitment. And the thing about commitment is that it requires action. And that's something we have not really seen from either EPD or just the city or the council in general. You know, me and a lot of other people in this community have seen firsthand, you know, the police response to protests in support of Black lives, how overwhelming and brutal those were. We have seen firsthand police clearing out homeless camps in the middle of a pandemic, which I want to add is utterly disgusting and shameful. And we should all feel ashamed for that. And yeah, I would also like to echo what Heather said in that I want to see some kind of plan or response to how the city and EPD plans to protect all of us from these violent groups such as Proud Boys. You know, I'd also like to respond to Councilor Clark's comments earlier. I would say in normal times, his sentiments would be admirable, but in our current reality, they are dangerously naive. There is no coming together with fascists. There is no meeting in the middle with white supremacists. These people literally want to kill us. And I'm not sure a lot of you really truly understand that, but that's the reality we live in now. Thanks.
Thank you. Next is Betsy, followed by Debbie Williamson-Smith.
Good evening. I'm Betsy Hitz from Ward 1. Tonight I joined the 12 organizations comprising Fossil Free Eugene in calling for a phase out of natural gas. I want to focus on fostering political will in order to get this done. Political will exists when enough decision makers with a common understanding of a problem are committed to supporting a potentially effective policy solution. It's time for a reset. This is the year to kick off sustained, strong climate action at the city level in keeping with the growing momentum we see at the federal, state, county levels. Change is easier when we're all on board. The power balance has been tipped in climate's favor in our nation's executive and legislative branches. We've elected a president who vows to build back better. Build Back Fossil Free is a growing movement of climate, racial, and economic justice groups representing millions of people nationwide who are mobilizing to ensure Biden becomes the climate president he promised to be. In our state, after the legislature failed to pass statewide climate action and as a result of unrelenting climate advocacy, our governor delivered one of the nation's strongest executive orders on climate. As part of the executive order, the Oregon Environmental Quality Commission is directed to limit and reduce emissions from many sources, including natural gas. At our county level, a climate action plan is quickly coming together. County staff was already primed to move forward on climate action and just needed the do it order from commissioners. With the election of Commissioners Buck and Bernie, county staff got the green light. Now, while it has always been the mandate for our councilors and mayor to lead Eugene to doing what is needed to meet the climate recovery ordinance goals, bold leadership has been in short supply. Political will has been lacking. For the sake of our children, this must be the year that changes. Councilors, mayor, manager, and staff should know that fossil-free Eugene will be relentless in our efforts to move the community and you, our elected leaders, to a deep understanding of the impacts of continued reliance on fossil fuels and the changes necessary for securing a livable future. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Debbie, followed by Alma Jesus.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Debbie Williamson Smith. I live in Ward 1. I am a member of the Public Art Committee, and I'm employed by the University of Oregon, but tonight I'm here as a private citizen. First, I'd like to just give a shout out to Laura Hammond. I'm sure she never gets thanks, but she always answers all of my emails promptly and timely, and you should be thankful that you have such a phenomenal communicator working with you. Thank you, Council, for your condemnation of white nationalism in 2019, and thank you, Mayor Vinis, for your remarks last Friday. Unfortunately, we are at a time when words are not enough, and we need actions and plans to protect our citizens against white nationalism. On Wednesday, domestic terrorists attacked our democracy, and in Councillor Surratt's powerful remarks, she used the phrase, these people. But these people have a name, and they're the Proud Boys, and they're here in our community. On Saturday, they attended an anti-socialism rally where they started a brawl, were broken up by EPD, and then left to go freely wander through the streets of downtown, where they harassed one of our Asian citizens, where they shouted anti-BLM remarks, and when they talked about a war, 30 of them marching down the streets. From my very own porch, I've witnessed police in riot gear follow BLM protesters home. I've woken up to the smell of tear gas breaking up Black Lives Matter protests. Where was that same thing on Saturday? Where was that same show of force? We need to publicly denounce white nationalism, not just with our words, but with our actions. And I'm asking you as a city council and mayor and city manager, what are you going to do to protect the residents here from racist violence? How are you ensuring that EPD treats Proud Boys the same way they treat our Black Lives Matter protesters? It's different. It was just as different. It was just as visible in DC, the privilege that white nationalists get. It can't happen here. We have to denounce it now. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Next is Alma, followed by Otis Hashmeyer.
Thank you. My name is Alma Fumiko Jesus, and I reside in Ward 4. I work for a nonprofit organization, but I'm here representing myself today. First of all, I would like to echo Debbie Williamson-Smith's sentiments and everything that she just said. And I want to thank you, city councilors, for your condemnation of white supremacy in 2019, and to you, Mayor Vinis, for your statement on Friday, where you shared that your dedication to creating a community where all people can safely, freely, and fully engage in our democracy. In addition to supporting the climate goals as well put forth by representatives of the Sunshine Eugene movement today, my testimony tonight is also one that weighs on my mind daily. What is the plan to make good on the city's resolution opposing white supremacy to protect all of us from racist violence? While I appreciate statements, I appreciate us being able to say what we believe in, accountability and action is what I really want us to make sure we're looking at. Again, that was echoed in many of the statements tonight. We all know the countless nights of protests for Black lives that were accompanied by police escorts and often riot police. And on Saturday, 30 Proud Boys were allowed to openly march downtown in downtown Eugene, armed with bats and potentially other lethal weapons, openly talking about an oncoming war, just 72 hours after leaders of their organization attacked our Capitol. That was something that's been echoed all night during this meeting, how we all oppose that, how we all cringe at this disgusting and terrible action that took place in our state's capital. And we should all be outraged by all of this, including what's happening here in our own community. Peaceful assembly and free speech are rights that we all hold sacred. And the First Amendment is one I personally believe in. I studied journalism. I went to this U of O School of Journalism. I came here 24 years ago to go to school, and I absolutely believe in that. But the Proud Boys are not peaceful, and they do not represent what proud Americans believe in. They have proven this many, many times. The Southern Poverty Law Center classifies the Proud Boys as a general hate group. Their agenda is misogynistic, homophobic, transphobic, Islamophobic, anti-Semitic, racist violence. Their leaders were at the center of the violence in the Capitol, left 5 people dead, and could have resulted in much more. Now, I just want to say that if we do not call out hate groups like the Proud Boys, we are limiting the ability for people like my father, who has become a US citizen here and is very proud to be an American. We are limiting what Mayor Venice said for safety, free and fully engaging, being able to help people to free and fully engage in our democracy.
Thank you. Your time has concluded. Next is Otis, followed by phone ending in 327.
This is Vondi, not Otis. Please don't start my time. I'll get rid of something here. Sorry, I'm trying to get rid of an echo.
Otis?
Yes,
it is your turn. We can hear you.
Hello?
Hi, the timer is ticking.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. In the jargon of security professionals, can I have my time started again?
No, I'm sorry.
If you could hear me. Can I have my time started again, Beth?
We are not able to. Please
Thank
continue.
God. You fuckers, you fuckers, you fuckers, you're such fuckers.
Next is phone ending in 327, followed by phone ending in 902. Please unmute.
Okay, I think I just unmuted. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hello? Okay, thank you. This is William Smith from Ward 1, here to speak about safety concerns on wireless technologies, especially densified 5G. For more than a year, a number of us have shared with you what we've been learning about the real harms of wireless radiation, with hope that city leaders can follow the example of people worldwide who are courageously finding ways to protect families and communities. And while, what's that?
Sorry about that. Continue.
Okay. So yes, we've been sharing with you about what we've been learning about ways that others have been around the world have been finding ways to, or what they've been learning about the harms of wireless radiation and ways to protect themselves and their communities. So anyway, I appreciate, I know there are others of us that appreciate city staff, and especially the acting Public Works Director, Rodriguez, City Manager Maderi, and individual counselors who have shown interest.
It looks like we lost you. Phone ending in 327. So next it's going to be phone ending in 902. And it looks like they dropped off as well. So we're going to do Avery Temple.
Hello, my name is Avery Temple and I pay rent in Ward 3, but I know I reside on Calabria land. Tonight I come to you all to speak on two subjects that are near and dear to me, climate and racial justice. As a BIPOC queer person, myself and other people of color experienced firsthand the violent repercussions of polluters and racists. I can say confidently and without hesitation that the two are deeply intertwined. Climate change induced by fossil fuels and emphasized by greed target and actively harm Indigenous, Black, and people of color. It affects our health, mentally and physically, and the well-being of the land that we all depend on to survive. Because I care about the lives of all of my people, especially my Black and Brown siblings, I urge the city to pass the following series of ordinances. 1, mandate the transition of all utilities in the city to 100% renewable energy by 2030. 2, ban the construction of all new fossil fuel infrastructure in the city. And 3, levy a fee on Northwest Natural. Further, I'd like to speak on another threat to the health and well-being of all people in Eugene, white supremacy. As we all know, white supremacy is embedded in the foundation of the United States. White supremacists have always brutalized Black, Indigenous, and people of color since its inception. All of us here today believe that abolishing slavery was the ethically right thing to do, or at least I hope that's the case. And yet, we still fund the same organization that was founded to catch slaves, the police. 6 months ago in Eugene, we saw a 14-year-old girl tackled to the ground by several EPD officers and violently arrested during a BLM protest. A few weeks ago, EPD attempted to murder Muhsin Sharif and is now holding him in jail without ever having been to trial. Frequently, EPD harasses and displaces unhoused people while a literal pandemic continues. This past weekend in DC, the police allowed the fascists into the building. However, we saw an uncharacteristic tenderness while a white middle-aged man who assaulted 2 counter-protests during a rally was explicitly inciting violence. It's no surprise that the police would defend and excuse the behavior of fascists because the police are fascists at their core. If Eugene is a city that cares about the Black and Brown community and its members like me, I want you to prove it. Stop the sweeps, defund the police, and transition to 100% renewable energy immediately.
Thank you. Next is DW Reynolds, 123@gmail.com, followed by Naman Singla.
Mayor Venice and members of the council, this evening, starting with your opening remarks and listening to the continuing discussion, makes me proud to live in Eugene. My name is Dennis Reynolds. I reside in Ward 3 in the Laurel Hill Valley Neighborhood Association. I'm a retired Unitarian Universalist minister and a member of Eugene Earthkeepers, as well as active in the local congregation and a member of the NAACP Environmental and Climate Justice Committee. And I'm here, like a bunch of other folks, to talk about possibilities and a call for a change in the agreement with Northwest Natural. In 2019, my wife Suzanne and I returned to Eugene from a decade away. Prior to that, I worked for 32 years at the U of O and Student Affairs Childcare Programs, retiring in 2009 as the director of the Moss Creek Children's Center. And my wife worked for many years for Looking Glass. And we came home because this is the kind of community we want to live in. We lived on Whidbey Island, Washington, where lots of people retired to. We retired back home to Eugene. And when we came back here, we had the opportunity to build a new home in the Laurel Hill Valley. We built an energy efficient home with heat pumps, with an induction cooktop. I did do a gas backup heat source, but it has a propane tank, not a line. We don't need those lines for emergency purposes, and we have an opportunity to stop creating additional infrastructure. This is the classic opportunity in this time to think globally and act locally. With changes in DC, we might get a better climate legislation happening there. We know the difficulties that happened at the state capitol, but you have the power to change things now in Eugene. You can take the very first step. As recently retired Councilor Betty Taylor said at the end of last month's public forum after many people spoke, she said, we can at least stop now building more. And that's step one. And lots of other speakers have given you information and steps that follow. Please take action now. Thank you for your commitment and your diligence.
Thank you. Next is Naman, followed by Fusi.
Mayor Vindes, City Councilors, and City Manager Madari, thank you for providing me an opportunity to give testimony. My name is Naman Singla, and I'm from Ward 3, and I'm a member of South Eugene's EG 350, which strives to fight against climate change and to teach others about how to make a difference in their lives for a better future. I'm here today to testify in regards to the ongoing use and expansion of fracked gas and other fossil fuel infrastructure in the city of Eugene. I've lived in Eugene almost my entire life, and over the past 15 years, many things have changed, along with the effects of global warming in Eugene as the climate crisis worsens. We saw just this past year horrible fires destroying homes. Even the air was too unsafe to breathe. I joined EG 350 at the beginning of this school year with the goal to try and make a difference in my community, especially after the fires. However, I was extremely disappointed to find out that the city of Eugene is not doing nearly enough to save our future generations from climate destruction. Even with an event as tragic as the fires, my city isn't actively working against climate change. From 2015 to 2019, we lost a total of 93 homes in Oregon due to wildfires. This year alone, we lost 4,009. More than 500 homes were burned down near Eugene and Springfield, and more than 1 million acres of land was burned. As a climate crisis worsens, I believe it is of the utmost importance for the city to be taking extensive measures to eliminate its carbon emissions and provide for a just transition to renewable energies. As such, I expect that with bold city leadership, the city of Eugene will meet the goals of the Climate Recovery Ordinance by the year 2030. And so I ask, refuse to sign a new franchise agreement with Northwest Natural unless they agree to the terms that put us on such a track to meet our CRO goals. Along with that, I am requesting that the City Council pass a series of ordinances to mandate the transition of all utilities in the city to 100% renewable energy by 2030, ban the construction of all new fossil fuel infrastructure in the city, and levy a fee on Northwest Natural and other climate polluters to create a fund to transition low-income and historically marginalized communities from fracked gas to electrical appliances. Councilors, you are faced with a unique opportunity as you renegotiate the city's franchise agreement with Northwest Natural to change the path our city is on. Thank you.
Thank you. Our last participant is Fusi.
Hi there. Thank you so much for the opportunity to speak. And it's very honored to be the last person. My name is Madeline Cowan. I live in Ward 3. I'd like to take a moment to reflect on the words of some of our councilor members at this meeting tonight and to place them in the context of some of the issues brought forth throughout the public comment period. While reinforcing the events of January 6th, Councilman Zelinka, who's my representative, highlighted the importance of our republic as a framework for promoting collaboration, unification, and stability across our country. With this in mind, I urge the City Council to consider the impact that your decisions have on other
municipalities in addition to our own. The continued support and dependency on extraction of fossil fuels has a ripple effect across the nation and the world. Pollution of countless watersheds, leaving communities without access to clean water, continued violence, and exploitation of rarely owned indigenous lands, the list could go on. I also want to echo the sentiments of Councilman Clark, as he cautioned us to recall the measures we need to take forward before we get swept away in celebrating wins. While City Council members took a notable amount of time to celebrate our Public Works Department, we, your constituents who have all taken time to speak tonight, remember the failures of the Parks program, which falls under the umbrella of Public Works. When so many of our neighbors experiencing houselessness continue to suffer at the hands of the Parks Department through the continued sweeping of camps, despite the fact that this goes against both OHA and CDC guidelines, we cannot join you in your celebration. We continue to look to you for betterment. Across the country, municipalities are looking to the City of Eugene as a model for programs that benefit public health. Programs like Cahoots, Whitebird, and Occupy Medical have been put in the city spotlight. They've gotten national coverage. I urge the city to consider the responsibility of this platform and to strive to demonstrate your commitment to public health, environmental sustainability, and equity through your actions. You can use this opportunity to start processes to completely decarbonize our city and equitably move our community into the new decade. You can use your platform to advocate for the health, safety, and equity of all of Eugene's citizens. We, your constituents, will continue to hold you accountable to these goals, and we hope to see you progress in reaching them as we move forward to this new year. Thank you so much and have a great night.
Thank you very much. I'm understanding that brings it to a close of our 90 minutes of testimony. So I apologize to those of you who waited and then we ran out of time, and very much appreciate all of the people who took the time to testify. And we have a number of counselors who wish to comment. So I have Councilor Clark and then Councilor Evans first up.
Thank you, Mayor. I appreciate everyone speaking tonight and taking the time to stay up and to tell us how you feel and what you think. I especially appreciate the tone of people like Fusi and the gentleman who spoke before her, who had just returned to Eugene after 10 years away with his wife to retire. I listen most closely to those who are kind in tone and who are sincere in their feelings and their thoughts, and who are reasonable folks. And I appreciate very much they're taking the time to tell us, even if I agree or disagree, doesn't matter. I also wanted to take the time to respond to Steve, who mentioned me. First of all, I appreciate your service to our country, sir, and I was sorry to hear the disability that you left the service with. I can't imagine what that's like, but I appreciate very much your service to keep the rest of us safe. But I couldn't disagree with you more. I think this is the time where it's not naive, but it's the hardest thing to do and the most important thing to do. I have dozens and dozens and dozens, hundreds maybe, of friends who say things to me like, I don't know how you can listen to those people. I don't know how you can work with them and talk with them because they're crazy. And I wouldn't deal with them for a minute. And that makes me sad. And I try and say, these are good people that I work with who care very deeply about their community. And we may disagree about what that looks like, but their motives are pure and they're trying to do the right thing. And there's a significant difference for me between creating groups of people that you can demonize, as Steve mentioned, and differentiating that from actions. Now, I'm all for calling out actions that are illegal and wrong and dangerous, and they make me sick on all sides. But when we're willing to demonize our neighbors in Eugene because they believe different things than we do, even if they're crazy, even if the things they believe would make our blood boil and we'd spend a lifetime arguing against them. I really urge us all to think of one another and to speak to one another with some grace, because we're in a dangerous time. And if we can't talk, the only thing left is fighting. And that's unacceptable. So I really urge caution, not to demonize those with whom we disagree. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Evans, and then Councilor Ye.
Thank you, Mayor. And I want to say I appreciate everyone who came out to speak tonight. I know for some of you, it's a fearful thing to speak in public, but you do it a few times, you'll get used to it. I just want to address a couple of issues that have been brought up. Lynn Woodridge, who's the co-chair of Active Bethel Citizens, is before us again and still talking about the same things, which I agree with her on. We, as a city, really need to take care of the whole city and not just certain parts of the city. And when you don't have a planning effort in a section of the community, which actually geographically is the largest subsection of the community, that's problematic. It's very problematic. You know, people live in Bethel, you know. There's this whole image that, you know, we have housing for the poor, we have, you know, criminals run around and run about. Oh, that's not true. But we do need a planning effort that is going to be comprehensive and focus us for the future. So I'm hoping that work starts to begin sooner than later. Also, I want to point out that we are starting to work on the design and development of the sports park at Golden Gardens, which I think is going to be a huge asset, not just for the Bethel area, but for the entire city. We'll be able to host tournaments, we'll be able to fill hotel rooms, and we'll be able to do some other things that we want to do with the revenue that's being brought in by people who are outside of our community. The last thing I'm going to say is this. I totally agree with what Claire said at the beginning of the meeting. But I don't think all of you have had the experiences that I had, or what I feel when I want to walk out to my mailbox and get the mail. And then I got to look over my shoulders, make sure that there isn't somebody around, you know, with a gun or with an explosive device that could, you know, hurt me or my family. This is what we're facing, not just in this community, but you saw what happened last Wednesday at the Capitol. I've been through those doors. I can't tell you how many times I've been there. But you cannot have the people who are resisting the protesters, the people who are being violent, take selfies with them. And no, that's not okay. It's just not okay. I hope that doesn't happen here either.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Ye, and then Councilor Keating.
Thank you. First off, thanks, Councilor Evans, for sharing that. I know it's not always easy to share our personal experiences. And thanks for everyone who came tonight. There was a lot of information and a lot of things to think about, and trying to sum them up in a comment at the end is often difficult because you're still thinking about them and still formulating. But I did want to comment, there were quite a few people here tonight who, what I'm hearing is don't accept an agreement with Northwest Natural if it doesn't achieve our goals. And I believe that's our intention during this process. But you're right. Then, you know, many of you have pointed out this negotiation may not end successfully, even though we're hopeful that it will. And then we're going to be looking for those different opportunities, there's different ways that we can still meet those commitments and those goals for our community. I do agree that if we want to continue to consider ourselves a leader in this area, we're going to have to address this issue of natural gas and the way we're going to transition off of it in our community. And it is a unique opportunity for us to address the needs of our community. But I think we're ready. We're ready to make those bold choices. And I look forward to working with all of you. I lost track of the number of organizations here tonight, but I know Betsy mentioned that she was speaking for 12, but I know there were more than that. And I look forward to working with my colleagues and all of you to find that pathway forward to get where we need to be. So thank you for all coming out tonight.
Thank you. Councilor Keating and then Councilor Syret.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you to colleagues for a most memorable first meeting. And thank you to the scores upon scores of individuals who provided compelling testimony tonight. Nam and Ilan, Doyle, Maddie, Hollis, Sam, Isabella, Satali, Ward 2 residents. I appreciate your testimony, especially student activists from South Eugene, members of EG 350 and the Sunrise Movement. Thank you for your continued advocacy, and clearly your powerful words are not falling on deaf ears. Dennis Reynolds, thank you for reminding quote, we can at least stop the building, or at least stop building more, excuse me. We can at least stop building more. Councilor Taylor and I don't agree on everything, but where we do find common ground, I will pledge to advocate as fervently for the future of our planet as Councilor Taylor has. In my opening statements, I echoed Councilors Syret and Yeas and Mayor Vennis's strong rebuke of violence in our community, and I cannot send a signal louder or clearer to Eugene residents that the abhorrent, seditionist, violent, racist behaviors that we've witnessed, not just at the US Capitol on Wednesday, but we've seen play out over the last 4 years and over the last few months, earlier this year in Michigan, and the madness that we've seen at our Capitol here in Oregon and Salem, that those actions are fundamentally un-American, not welcome, and not tolerated in our community, period. I want to honor the lives of officers lost in Wednesday's attack on our democracy. Officer Brian Sicknick and off-duty officer Howard Liebengold. Thank you, Council. Thank you, community members who stood up to be heard tonight.
Thank you, Councilor Syret, and then Councilor Groves.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you to everyone who spoke, and apologies to folks who didn't get a chance to speak because we ran out of time. I appreciate all the perspectives and information and thoughtfulness that people brought. I wanted to respond in particular to the folks who were concerned, who are concerned about their public safety, given the presence of Proud Boys in our community. I want to say we made mistakes. Our police department made mistakes during the first of the Black Lives Matter rallies, and we've had a whole civilian review board of the some of the activities that happened there. And our EPD leadership changed their tactics over the course of those weeks to allow those Black Lives Matter rallies to continue without police interference or repeating those mistakes. And, you know, the city manager can correct me if I'm wrong on this next part, but My understanding is those tactics involve not necessarily being highly visibly present, but they are actually monitoring the rallies and the activities, protests, and they intervene to address individual actions while trying to allow legitimate free speech activities to continue. And I will say, our words do matter. As a city council, we work with words. Those are our tools. That is our medium. Written words become laws. Spoken words can move people to positive action. So it's legitimate to ask, what are the police going to do to ensure public safety? But this council is not your police force. We are your political leaders, and it's through our words that we take action. So I denounce the Proud Boys and their ilk. I support our chief of police in making wise tactical decisions to ensure the safety of Eugene. I hope, and I would encourage him to issue a statement reassuring the public that he is very aware of the threat posed by this group and their activities, and that he has a plan to ensure our community's safety. Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor. And now Counselor Groves.
Thank you, Mayor. And I too want to thank everybody who came out and spoke tonight. Everybody's opinion matters. Everybody has a right to express that opinion. And I also want to say that I strongly support the words of Councilor Surratt and also Mayor Venice from last Friday. And I didn't say anything in the opening piece. I agreed with everything I heard. I was trying to be efficient with time. But as I thought about this during the meeting, and this is my first meeting, I realized that was wrong. This is a time that we all need to stand up and be counted. And I agree that our words matter, our actions matter, our intentions matter, our listening matters. And I dedicated most of my adult life to the safety of this community. And I will continue to do that now. And I am thrilled to be a part of this group and to have such a fine group of colleagues to work with. And I know we all want the betterment of this community, and that everybody's safety, everybody's opportunity to be heard is important. And that needs to be at the forefront, I think, of much of what we do, especially in these challenging times. I too was horrified on the 6th watching what was happening in our nation's capital and the attempted coup. And, you know, I denounce that in the strongest terms. It sickened me. And we need to always be vigilant and watch here locally as well. I don't think this is beyond the realm of possibility of happening anywhere, especially right now during this dangerous time of transition. So with that, thank you. Again, happy to be a part of this group and appreciative of the public for taking the time to come out and speak. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Zelenka, and then it looks like the city manager may want to speak.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. I already said my piece about what happened on January 6th. I'd just like to add on to the point that I made and others made, that we need to be vigilant and our words do matter. I think it's a really good idea to take the 2019 resolution that we did against white supremacy and hate and dust that off, update it, and reaffirm it with the new counselors. And I think there's not a better time to do that than in the next couple of meetings. So if staff could prepare that, I think that would be a good thing for the council to reaffirm and allow the 2 new counselors to be part of that resolution.
I'm sort of looking for general head nods and not a vote.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
All right.
I think there's support for that.
I'm seeing one hand coming up.
Can I speak, Mayor?
Yeah. Yes, you may speak.
If we're denouncing violent action, I'm all for it, which will include Antifa and those in BLM and others who incited violence this summer. If we're willing to do that, I'm in. But if we're just going to say people on the political right should stop being violent, which I agree with, that's fine. But we're not being peacemakers when we focus on one political aspect of this. I believe we should be focused on action, and I believe we should be focused on anyone who would create violence in our community. And I find it abhorrent, and I denounce all of it. And if that's our focus, that's great. But we're in a dangerous time. And I think that all of our leaders nationally and at the state level, and specifically us, because this is our duty, should look not to demonize one group of our country or our community or another, so much as the actions we find abhorrent. And if you want to talk about the things that are absolutely not acceptable, which we saw on Wednesday, then I'm with you. But I would urge caution to my colleagues, because there's a lot of people in our community who stay quiet, but they feel picked on with this when it's only one-sided politically. So I would encourage us to be mindful of that. That's all.
This is a topic that will come back. This is a long-standing conversation. I think we are addressing what we see as a very present threat that was expressed on Wednesday, and a very specific threat, and one that we understand is very present in our community, our state, and our nation. So I do think this is part of our deep investment in how do we create safety for everyone. We're hearing the feeling of personal threat and recognizing that people are vulnerable in this community, and this council will address that. So we're not going to solve it tonight, but it will come back. And Manager, did you have some things you wanted to say?
I was just going to mention, I won't go deep into the policing of the weekend, but I do know we've heard a lot of concerns from community members tonight, and not just tonight, but through multiple channels, about concerns over the next few days and the next week through the inauguration about potential protests, especially given, I think there was a piece from ABC News that's moving its way around social media. So we're prepared, if it makes sense, for the chief to join us at noon on Wednesday to just give you a really high level update about what we're learning. Oftentimes the things that are out on social media they're not matching up with what we're learning. And I know he's been really good about keeping you informed, but I'm not sure that that's keeping the whole public informed. So he can join us on Wednesday at noon, and we'll try to keep it really brief so you can still get through your items if that seems like something you'd like to have happen.
I'm seeing a lot of head nods, and I think it's very advisable to share that with the public in a public forum and the meeting. So thank you very much for that. We look forward to hearing from the chief. And thank you, all of you, for your thoughtful consideration tonight, and all the members of the public who testified. And with that, we are adjourned.